Roundtable talk. Let's get right into it, y'all. Man, that was a hell of a fight. I really enjoyed what I saw. A lot of things that AJ did was it was very new to him. At least that wrinkle of him that he showed tonight was something new that he hasn't shown before in any of his other fights, and that was his boxing ability. And that was a huge adjustment that he was able to make, especially after coming off a devastating loss, having prior been on the top of the heavyweight division, and then losing to a guy whom was looking like a cherry picked opponent. He came in and he made it the necessary adjustments, and he showed why he's a champion, and he showed why he belongs in the conversation as one of the best heavyweights in the world. I personally had the fight scored 117-111 for Anthony Joshua. If you look at that scorecard right there, you'll see the rounds in which I scored it. After four, I had it tied up, 2 rounds to 2 rounds, and then I also gave the eighth round to who was that? The eighth round I gave to Ruiz. I gave Ruiz the third and the fourth and the eighth round. I gave him 3 rounds. Well, rather, he earned 3 rounds in the judgment of my eyes and what I saw that he did effectively. Everything else was Joshua. From the onset, we seen Joshua coming out boxing, looking real good. The weight differential showed. I didn't know if the 10 pound difference that Joshua, the minus 10 pound difference that he came in at, I didn't know if it was a result of extra training or a super training camp, or was it the lack of possibly him not lifting weights, or also not, there's a big speculation that he uses steroids. I didn't know if that was the case, but he mentioned that he had not been working out on the weight, so maybe that's what it was. But yeah, the first 2 rounds I gave it to Joshua. His boxing ability showed the dominant quality. The third and the fourth round. Third round, it was not much action on either side, but I gave it to Ruiz simply because he stalked. He did the more. He was looking for things to happen. He was trying to create moments to make something happen. So I gave the third round to Ruiz. The fourth round, it was a Joshua round, but in the end, Ruiz was able to steal that round. He caught Joshua with some pretty good punches at the end of the round, and it looked like the pressure was getting to Joshua. And once Ruiz started landing, it kind of seemed as if he was recollecting and jogging his memory of the first fight. I seen this happening during the fight, but he kept his composure. And in this round, it got the better of him momentarily, but it was just enough to get around to sway my favor to Ruiz. Going into the fifth round, Joshua made a necessary and needed adjustment right away. He stayed on his jab, he stayed on his toes, and he boxed beautifully that fifth round. Coming out the sixth round, that's usually when guys, when they feel like they have the flow of the fight going in their favor, they'll kind of take a break. Joshua did that to some degree, and also the sixth round, you can see a bit of frustration coming in on Andy Ruiz. But all in all, I gave that round to Joshua. He did have moments where he did some nice work in that round. Seventh round, I started to see that was the first sign of fatigue that I seen kick in for Andy Ruiz, and also a bit of frustration from having to chase him around the ring. And it seems as if at this point, Andy Ruiz felt like at this point he would have been able to lure Joshua into a slugfest. Joshua wasn't having it, so it looked as if Ruiz was getting frustrated a bit, and I don't want to mistake it for fatigue, but it seemed like he was slowing down this round, or maybe he was frustrated. But whatever the case was, uh, Joshua he won out that round, landing some big punches and staying composed while doing so, because it was moments in the fight where Joshua wanted to engage, and he wanted to land some big punches, and you know he stayed composed. He stayed to the game plan, and he did well. And I'm sorry for not mentioning the first round. Uh, Joshua landed a cut he landed a shot right before the bell sounded for the 10-second mark. He landed a good punch and it split Andy Ruiz's eyes, caused a minor cut. And also the second round, Ruiz caused a cut over Joshua's eye. I didn't make much mention of it. It didn't even cross my mind, simply because it wasn't either guy didn't suffer a cut under the eye that really affected or swayed the flow of the fight or the game plan. It looked as if that it could have, but it didn't. And I'm glad that we didn't have any kind of like decision that had to be based off of a cut over the eye, or something like that. Like, it really didn't pose much of a threat. So shout out to the cut man and the corner man for that. But moving right along to the 8th round, this one Andy he found some openings, but he started off by doing it with good body work. He also caught him with a good overhand right, and you can see that you know this where I saw some maturity in Joshua, uh, because you could see that Andy was instructed to change his game plan and do it swiftly, and he attacked and he made the adjustment right away. For one thing, Andy came out aggressive, so he flipped the switch on Joshua, and right when Joshua felt like he was in control of the fight, Andy said, "I got another layer to me as well," and he went out there. He pushed his feet to the gas, and he avoided the clinching. Joshua he did some things well with clinching and boxing. He also infused that a part of his game, but in that 8th round, Ruiz he put a stop to that clinching, and Joshua had to adjust. But in that 8th round, I gave it to Ruiz because he did find some openings and he did some nice body work, and he hit him with an overhand right. And 9th round, I gave that round to Joshua. Although Ruiz had continued to pressure him, and it was some good action, and also too in that round, Ruiz caught him with some good. What was that? I can't read my writing, but he caught him with some good punching as well. But I gave that round to Joshua because for the majority of the round, Joshua was sticking and moving. Man, he was working wonders on his lateral movement, and his jabbing. That was the most effective punch tonight, was Joshua's jab. He did an excellent job keeping the distance, keeping the space, and also clinching with a Ruiz. So I gave that round to Joshua. Also, to the 11th round, I gave to Joshua. It was more the same, jabs and movement. Nothing spectacular, not nothing major happened in the 11th round. Just more the same, jabs and movement. The 12th round, I also gave to Joshua as well. He caught Andy with a big right hand early in the round, And again, that's where I said that Joshua, he would have loved to. You can see that he wanted to have moments in which he engaged, because you could tell he wanted to. It would have been nothing more satisfying for him to than for him to end the show in spectacular fashion. But I like the fact that he stayed composed, and he knew he had to fight in the bag. Why do something stupid? You know, just get this victory, man, and get your belts back, and get back in this conversation of one of the best in the world. Uh, so again, I had to fight 117, 111 in favor of Joshua, 9 rounds to 3. I'd also like to say Sergio Mora did an excellent job of covering the fight. A lot of times in which he would make certain comments, he was thinking along the same lines as I was thinking as the fight was progressing. He was making references to the previous fight of how Joshua went down to his level, and that caused him to get punched a lot. But Joshua fought tall, and he also made a good point to say that for the beginning of the fight, it wouldn't have been a good idea for Joshua to go down the sides, but in the second half it would have, because by this time Ruiz had made an adjustment and he started catching him. So now lower yourself, bend your knees a little bit, just to throw his timing off. I felt that Sergio Mora did a good job with the analysis and the announcing. He caught the fight just like it was. You can tell that he was an excellent a fighter, and you can tell that he had experience, unlike a few of the other guys. To really understand this game, you have to do it. There are very few boxing minds that are produced without the value of in-ring experience. Again, I'm going to say there's very few boxing minds, that are produced with the absence of that boxing experience. When you get in that ring, you have a different type of understanding than just somebody on the outside looking in. You have a far more in-depth understanding, and Sergio Mora, he showed why he was one of the greater minds. He made I specifically made a career out of not fighting Mexican style. You could tell he knew how to use his brain. So shout out to Sergio Mora, man. I actually enjoyed the hearing him give his opinion on the fight and the breakdown. Two of the judges had the score 118, 110. One judge had it 119, 109. Again, I had it 117, 111. All in favor of Anthony Joshua by unanimous decision. And in summation of the fight, we see again that that Cinderella story, it only strikes once. It's hard for it to happen twice in a row to the same person. Vegas had it right this time by far. Anthony Joshua made the adjustments that he was needed to make, and I was thoroughly impressed by him being able to do so. Because this is a wrinkle of his game that I didn't know existed. A lot of people question if it existed, but he definitely put a lot of that. If anybody who doubted, he definitely put it to rest that he can make those adjustments and actually be an actual good heavyweight fighter. As far as with his boxing ability. I learned early on. I seen right away he learned how to clinch. I said, damn, that's an art. I remember when I was fighting, I thought it was just holding, and I learned the value of clinching. When you're in there with a guy that can punch harder than you, and he can really crack, and he can hurt you, you have to clinch. You have to be able to hold this guy on the inside and buy yourself some time to either recover from a big shot that you absorb, or just slowing down his momentum, especially when you're the quicker, more fleet of foot kind of fighter, and that's what kind of fighter Joshua showed he was. I had to learn that from sparring a lot of guys that was 15, 20, 30, 40 pounds heavier than me, in the gym. And also, too, when I would, come to fights, I was a smaller guy in my weight division when I fought in the amateurs. Guys was just naturally bigger than me. I'm a skinny guy, I got skinny legs, but I saw that Joshua did real well with the clinching, and he didn't do it to where it was gross. Where he was holding for too long. He wasn't working. No, he was working out of the clinch. He was working up to the clinch, and he used that as an effective tool to keep Andy at bay and to keep him to counter his offensive attack. I loved what I saw. He showed that he's a complete fighter, and even in times, another thing I was thoroughly impressed with is his ability to show poise and to stay composed during the duration of the fight, especially when he had moments. The times in which he caught Andy Ruiz with big shots. Your natural inclination is to feel as though you got a guy hurt and to take him out, but in these moments he was able to quickly identify that it wasn't wise to get caught up in an exchange with him, especially on banking on the thought that I think I have him hurt, because at no point he really hurted Andy Ruiz. He just landed good shots on him, and I was glad to see that he was able to make the distinction of the two, because a lot of times guys make mistakes and they think they got a guy hurt or they feel they got a guy hurt, but the worst thing to do is to run up on an injured dog, because without a bite stick, guys that know about pit bulls, or a dog who just been hit or a dog who just had some trauma, if you run up on that dog, he gonna attack 9 times out of 10, because that's their defense mechanism. So Andy, he's a dog. We know that. We seen him as a hurt dog. What he did, he came back and fought even more, valiant. So at no point of the fight he hurt Andy, so it would have been unwise for him to go in there and try to finish him off, because there were moments in the fight where he did try to make exchanges, and Andy actually got the better of the exchanges in some instances. And all Andy was banking on was for him to stay there a little bit more longer, or to get to that point a few more times more often, and it could have been a different fight. But kudos to Joshua and his team for making adjustments, the needed adjustment, because that proved that it was the difference between him gaining his titles back, gaining his confidence back, knowing that he can still compete at a high level, and it also was a testament to his character, because a real champion can lose and bounce back. He can lose and rise again. So he definitely silenced all the critics. He actually, and then most of all, he proved it to himself that he can still compete in this game at a high level and still be a champion, because a lot of times when you take a loss such as he did, sometimes it can be the worst damage that can be done is the mental damage, the mental scoring. So he showed that he recovered from that mental scoring, and tonight was a big advancement and much progress into the self healing, because and the self conviction. He proved it to himself, which we all got to do with whatever we involved in, especially as a fighter. You got to prove it to yourself. When you go to sleep at night, when your head hurting, and you're like, I don't want to get up, man. I don't want to do this no more. We all had them nights if you fought, where you got a hellified headache, and you're like, man, this ain't for me. So he proved it to himself. Tomorrow and in the coming days, he'll understand that, he'll feel like a much better person. He definitely showed his growth. He definitely showed that he belongs right where he's at. So big ups to him, man. That was a good job. Big ups to Andy Ruiz, man. Again, like I said, we see that it was a Cinderella story, but it's nothing to hang his head low upon. There's much more action that can be found for him in the heavyweight division. Even too, he can still have another shot at a title. Especially with so many floating around, and even at the upper echelons of the division. With a guy like Wilder, or even further down the line, with whatever happens to the whatever happens to the heavyweight division in the future, in the near future. Like I always said, I'm Bomb Squad. I'm Team Bomb Squad day one, Team Bomb Squad to the end, and I believe that Wilder will beat all these guys, and I continue to say that. I hope with this victory that AJ finds the confidence. I didn't hear the post fight yet, and I didn't hear the things he mentioned in the ring when they gave him the mic. I didn't see that. I didn't feel no need to, because at this point it's all speculation. It's all words. Even if he did call Wilder out, I haven't heard it yet. I don't know if that exists. I'm letting y'all know now. But I hope this gives him the confidence to call a guy like Wilder out after he beats Fury. There's no reason for him to, to duck him now. Unify the titles. Fight for a unification title. This would be the biggest thing the heavyweight division has seen in quite some time. Like I tell everybody, man, boxing is doing good. It's well alive. It hasn't died, but I'm a firm believer that when a heavyweight is doing great, boxing is doing great. So what we need is a heavyweight unification title. So hopefully after Wilder handles his business with Fury for the second time in February, that, maybe summertime for sure, we can get a Wilder and Anthony Joshua unification bout. I love to see that. And again, it's Team Bomb Squad all day, but big ups to Anthony Joshua, man. He did his thing. He looked excellent. He actually, this is the best I've seen him. He matured, and from one fight to the next, he showed that he's made up of things that will be, he's made up of gold. He's refined gold now, and I was thoroughly impressed. Big ups to his team and everybody in that camp. And Ruiz, keep your head up, man. You did a good. You put up a valiant effort. You did your thing, man. It's just, his boxing ability got to you, caused you some problems, and he stayed smart and composed. This is a lesson and also a demonstration for all you young fighters out there that, when you have an ability and you have an advantage, use it in the ring, and don't allow the outside forces to sway your advantage, because that crowd was very, very hyped once they started exchanging punches. And like I said, it was moments in the fight where, Andy drew him in and Joshua wanted to trade, but he was a smarter man, and he took some steps back, and it's actually played in his favor, because a couple of times he took some steps back and he was throwing punches and the punches went right by him. So, good job, man. And that pretty much summarizes my analysis of the fight. If y'all ain't hit that subscribe button, man. Hit that like button. Share this video, and let's go, man. Let's get this heavyweight division. Let's keep it popping, man. Let's continue to do what we doing. Hopefully these promoters are continue in the right way, and keep the heavyweight division at the top of the game. I had to put my Lakers hat on, y'all. We back at it. I can't wait till June. You know what I mean? Let's go LeBron. Let's go AD. Let's go Team Lakers, baby, all day. Roundtable Talk. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Y'all take care. Thank y'all for your time. Peace out.